This week, something started circulating on social media that left many people panicked. News of a global blackout. 9 days without power. No internet. No communication. Starting July 18th, 2026. The day before the World Cup final. I saw that, and I just stood there, frozen. Because Jesus showed me exactly that, not the way it's being portrayed on social media. On social media, they're talking about Agenda 2030, a secret government plan, satellites falling. Everyone invents a different explanation. But the fact is, the feeling this news is causing in people, that feeling of unease you get when you read it, that's not without reason. Because something is coming. And it's not just the blackout. This week, it also came out in the newspapers that the WHO is on high alert because of 3 viruses at the same time. H5N1, which is avian flu, Mpox, which many people already know, and a third one called Oropouche, which most have never heard of, but which experts are calling a ticking time bomb. 3 viruses at the same time. And before that, the earthquake in Venezuela. Magnitude 7.5, more than 2,000 dead. And in the Philippines, magnitude 7.8, in different weeks, on opposite sides of the world. Now tell me something. Do you think all of this together is a coincidence? Because Jesus showed me this, not each detail separately, but the sum of it all. He showed me a world where things started happening all at once. No, one at a time. All together. Too fast for anyone to process before the next thing arrived. And he told me something that has stayed with me ever since. I said, when the world starts to feel like it can no longer keep up with the news, when each week brings something bigger than the previous week, when people start looking around not knowing who to trust, it's because the time I showed you has arrived. Look at the news this week and tell me if this isn't exactly what's happening. But let me tell you what Jesus really showed me. Because what's going viral on social media is just a shadow of what he showed me. And the shadow is frightening. But when you see what that shadow is projecting, that's different. He showed me the world after the World Cup final. And it started with something no one was expecting. He showed me an illness, not like the way COVID arrived. This one won't arrive with names on television and government decrees. This one will arrive more quietly. It will appear in different places at the same time without any apparent connection. It will take weeks for someone to connect the dots and realize that these are not isolated cases. And when they realize, it will already be on several continents. Jesus told me that this illness will be different from COVID in one specific way. COVID affected the elderly and those with weaker bodies more. What comes after the World Cup will be different. It will affect more those who are in a prolonged state of fear. Because fear weakens the body in a way that science has already proven, but that few people take seriously. And the fear that will come after that final, it will be collective. It will be simultaneous. It will enter millions of homes at the same time through screens. It is written in 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. God has not given us a spirit of cowardice, but what is to come will try to plant precisely that spirit in every home, in every family, in every heart that is not anchored in something that does not waver. And then he showed me the earthquakes, not one, several. It showed me the earth, moving in places where it doesn't usually move. It showed me people running out of buildings in the middle of the night. It showed me entire regions being evacuated. And it showed me something that disturbed me more than the earthquakes themselves. He showed me people's reactions. Because when you see an earthquake on the news, you get that shock. You text someone, and 2 days later it's forgotten. It's far away. It's tragic, but it's far away. What Jesus showed me was different. It showed me earthquakes happening in such rapid succession, in places so close to where people live, that forgetting no longer comes. Because before you forget the first one, the second one arrives. Before you process the second one, the third one arrives. And then the fear stops being about that specific earthquake, and it becomes a fear of the ground, a feeling of suspicion that the place where you're standing could move at any moment. This changes the way a person lives. It changes what they prioritize. It changes what they believe to be safe. And Jesus told me, earthquakes are not punishment. They are a warning. The earth is reacting to what is happening above it. It has always been this way. When evil accumulates, creation groans. In Romans 8:22, Paul wrote that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. This is not a metaphor. It is literal, and the groaning is getting louder. But what kept me up at night the most was what he showed me after the earthquakes, the blackout. Not the way it's portrayed on social media. not as a government conspiracy, not as Agenda 2030. It showed me a darkness that starts one way and turns into something completely different. It starts as a technical glitch. One region loses power, then another. Technicians say it's a localized problem. Power companies issue statements saying they're working to resolve it. Governments urge calm. And then the power doesn't come back on. Hours turn into days, and that's where what Jesus showed me in great detail begins. Because everyone has seen a power outage before, that's nothing new. What is new is what happens when the blackout lasts long enough for people to realize that their cell phones are going to die and there's nowhere to charge them, that the money in the bank only exists as long as the system works, that the food in the supermarket disappears in less than 24 hours when people panic. You are a son, not a bank queue, no. A supermarket queue at 3 in the morning with people fighting over basic things. I saw a gas station with a cordon and a policeman at the door. I saw a pharmacy with a closed gate and a queue outside of people with prescriptions in hand, unable to get in. And what bothered me wasn't the queue. He was the one who was in it. They weren't marginalized people. They weren't people already living in hardship. They were middle-class people, people who had planned their lives, people who thought they had done everything right. Jesus told me. The system that humanity has built works as long as everyone believes in it simultaneously. When that belief begins to crack, the system cracks along with it. And what comes after the World Cup final will shatter that belief in a way this generation has never seen before. In Matthew 7:26, he himself said, "Anyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The sand is moving, and many people will only realize it when the house of cards is already falling down." But now I need to talk about something that disturbed me more than all of that, because everything I've talked about so far, the viruses, the earthquakes, the blackout, all of that is what's happening out there. It's what you see on screens. It's what appears in the news. What Jesus showed me happens inside homes during this period. It's heavier than any news story. It showed me families in the dark, literally and spiritually. Literally because the light went out. Spiritually because when cell phones die and the television doesn't work and silence takes over, people are left alone with their own thoughts in a way that hasn't happened in years. And many people aren't prepared for that. Because in recent years, we've learned to never be alone with our own thoughts. There's always a screen, there's always a video, there's always a notification. Silence has become strange. Silence has become uncomfortable. And when he finally arrives, it's going to be tough. I saw people panicking not because of a lack of food, but because of a lack of distraction. And Jesus told me something that I still think about every time I remember it. I said, I'm going to use this silence, because in silence my voice becomes clear. And many who never managed to hear me, because there was always too much noise around, will hear me for the first time during this period. The blackout that the world will call a catastrophe. This will be the most fertile environment this generation has ever seen for someone to truly encounter God. Not in a church, not in a service, in a dark room with the family gathered together, having nothing else to do but talk and think and feel. And that's when a lot of things that were buried will come to light. Many marriages that were on autopilot will be forced to truly look at each other for the first time in years. Many parents who no longer knew what to say to their children will be forced to sit down together without any screens. Many people who thought they didn't need God will discover that the only thing that doesn't fail when everything else fails is Him. And it was here that Jesus showed me something I didn't expect to see in that vision. He showed me who was prepared, not equipped with a bunker and generator, no. Prepared from the inside. Ordinary people, simple houses, nothing materially special. But with one thing that the darkness outside couldn't touch. A peace that made absolutely no sense given what was happening. And Jesus explained to me where that peace came from. I said, these people found me before the storm, not in the middle of it, before. In the silence of ordinary days, when there was no urgency, when it seemed like there was no need, they chose to truly get to know me. And now that the urgency has arrived, they're not trying to remember who I am. They already know. That's the difference. It's not about having more faith during a crisis. It's about having built faith before the crisis. In Proverbs 10:25, it is written, when the whirlwind passes, the wicked no longer exist, but the righteous have an eternal foundation. Eternal foundation, not a pretty foundation, not a foundation that looks good in photos, a foundation that can withstand a whirlwind, and the whirlwind is coming. But before I finish, I need to talk about something specific that Jesus told me about this period that kept me awake for days. He told me about the children. not in a scary way. In a way that surprised me, he said that children will react differently than adults to what's coming. He said that while adults will panic, many children will remain calm, and that this calmness in children will be what helps parents not to completely lose their minds. And he told me the reason. He said, the child hasn't yet learned to trust the system. They still trust presence. And when the presence of a father or mother is firm, the child becomes firm too. The problem is when the parent panics, because then the child loses the only point of reference they have. Therefore, the most important instruction he gave me for that period wasn't about food, water, or generators. It was about the father of the family. He said, the man who knows how to stand firm when the world shakes will be the greatest gift his family has ever had. Not because he'll have an answer for everything, but because he'll be an anchor when everything else is in turmoil. You who are watching this and have a family, this is the most important preparation you can make right now. It's not about stockpiling food. It's about stockpiling faith. It's about building inner stability that doesn't depend on what's happening outside. Because your child won't need you to provide answers when the lights go out. You'll need peace. And peace that doesn't come from within, you won't find anywhere to get it when you need it. Now tell me something. Are you feeling what I'm describing? This weight that's been in the air since the World Cup started? This feeling that something bigger is coming behind all of this? Write below if you are feeling this. You don't need to write much. It can just be, I'm feeling it. Because I want to know how many people are awake right now. How many are seeing what I'm seeing? How many have that nervous feeling in their stomach that isn't fear, but recognition? Write it down. And if you know someone who needs to hear this before July 19th, send this video to that person now, not tomorrow, now. Because after the final, the time for preparation will be over, and the time to cross will have begun. And whoever crosses with God within, it's a different journey than crossing without it. Simple as that. You who are watching this and have a family, this is the most important preparation you can make right now. It's not about stockpiling food. It's about stockpiling faith. It's about building inner stability that doesn't depend on what's happening outside. Because your child won't need you to provide answers when the lights go out. You'll need peace. And peace that doesn't come from within, you won't find anywhere to get it when you need it. Now tell me something. Are you feeling what I'm describing? This weight that's been in the air since the World Cup started? This feeling that something bigger is coming behind all of this? Write below if you're feeling this way. You don't need to write much. It can just be, I'm feeling it. Because I want to know how many people are awake right now. How many are seeing what I'm seeing. How many have that nervous feeling in their stomach that isn't fear, but recognition? Write it down. And if you know someone who needs to hear this before July 19th, send this video to that person now, not tomorrow, now. Because after the final, the time for preparation will be over, and the time to cross will have begun. And whoever crosses with God within, it's a different journey than crossing without it. Well, simple as that. But before I finish, I need to do one thing. Because you can't say all this and leave without praying. Not for me, for you, for every person who has watched this so far, for every family that will go through what's coming. So close your eyes for a second if you can. Sir, I come here not as someone special. I am a man who has lost everything and whom you found at the bottom of an empty room. I have no title. I hold no position. I only have what you have shown me and the obligation to speak. Dad, everyone listening to this right now is carrying something. You know what it is. You know the bills that don't add up. You know the child who's far away. You know the marriage that's falling apart. You know the nameless fear that wakes you up in the middle of the night and keeps you from sleeping again. You know everything. And I ask now that your hand of protection descend upon every home that has been represented here, upon every family that has an empty chair at the table, upon every father who no longer knows how to be strong, upon every mother who's on her knees alone, begging for a child, who doesn't want to know about God. Lord, what's coming is great, greater than any of us can face alone, but you are greater than what is coming. You always have been. And your word says that no evil will come near your dwelling place. That's why I ask for protection. Real protection. Not the kind of protection we habitually ask for at the end of a service. The kind of protection that forms a wall, that deflects what comes towards your families, that places angels at the doors of the homes that have chosen you. It covers Brazil. It covers Portugal. It covers South Africa. It covers the Philippines. It covers the United Kingdom. It covers Canada. It covers the United States. It covers every country where someone is watching this right now and feeling that this message was meant for them. And Father, for those who are at their limit right now, for those who are exhausted from fighting, for those who thought about giving up this week, for those who are watching this in a dark room with no one by their side, you see them, you know everyone's name. And I ask that before this video ends, you touch every heart that needs touching. May your presence be so real right now that the person can't ignore it. May they feel that they're not alone, that they never were, because you're here in silence, where it has always been, and it will be there when the light goes out, and it will be there when the earth shakes, and it will be there when fear knocks on the door. In the name of Jesus, amen.